that feeling of being, I am the only one. Why is everyone else the same way and I have to change all my natural instincts to fit that animal? Don't lose your magic. Like the fire that I put out in myself, my natural essence, is the thing that makes me like magnetic in the world. And I put that fire out because I was so ashamed. If you look at the world in general, it's not a great thing to be exactly the same. All of your heroes are going to be people who stand out. All of your heroes are going to have differentiating factors. Be one of them.
This is Rooted Recovery Stories, and I'm Patrick Custer. So very excited for another special episode this month for Pride Month. I've got my friend Cole Redding here all the way from Philadelphia by way of California.
Yes. Philly boy going to LA. And now in Nashville. Yeehaw, y'all.
Wait, are we making
No. But I will say, a lot of the music I'm like, that's in the canon that's coming out is like very heartland, like very country friendly pop. A lot of my heroes have that like big acoustic strum through the middle. So I don't know. Never say never. It's been nice.
I was thinking about all the ways that I could introduce you today. And I think the thing that encapsulates all that I know about you so far, and I did do more research, but my favorite thing is at your show, you stopped it and said, no, you guys deserve a better bridge than that.
I apologize.
No. Yeah, that was an amazing, the bridge that you did. And the crowd loved it. Everybody loved it.
I needed to wake people up.
I think that just, you know, owning the stage, owning your voice, and just everybody absolutely loved that. And I think that it translates so much to, it's empowering, right? Like you're owning your own narrative and the blemishes and all, and you're just like, no. Because I got it too.
I think that's what it is. I feel like people misperceive like, oh, I'm acknowledging I made a mistake, therefore that's weakness or insecurity. That's security. It's going, oh, I don't actually give a shit that I made a mistake. Right. This is fine. Let me just give it to you the right way. Because at the end of the day, if you crush whatever it is, then no one remembers the first thing that you did to mess up. They're just like, oh, that was amazing. And also, like, people were eating. I was like, okay, I need people to look up from like the spinach and artichoke dip. Come on, and it woke people up.
So it did, but I think the metaphor I would like to use it for is so much of what we do on this show and in the parallels of recovery, in that like we go beyond the illusion that we're all either broken or perfect, right? So we're on here saying, I'm talking about the whole self, the whole me, about how I was broken, and that broken part of me is so much of what made the person I am today. And the ingredients that are in this Cole Redding, you ain't gonna make that up without
it's so true. And I feel like if I look at my life, like if I had to like name my life, it'd just be like death and rebirth. And it was definitely a lot of identity hopping for sure. But I think it's because I would always go, okay, I was a mess, or all of a sudden I feel different. So like now that part's not valid. And I'd always try to take these little like mythical scissors and like snip out parts of my life and compartmentalize. And well, that was me then. Well, then that's diminishing what I am now. Because then I'm going to assume in a year, I'm going to go, oh, this version of me that I love and I believe in wholeheartedly is invalid. Which is bullshit. That's not life. I think all people are like everything at one time. And I think we have a way, when you say, and I think it's really beautiful, like broken or healed, essentially, there's really no such thing as either. It is a combination of things that makes someone interesting. And you could be broken one day and healed the next day, and broken the next hour and healed again. And I think to like live in that moment to moment continuum of going, if I just make sure that I'm proud of my words and my actions and who I am, like right now, and then in 5 minutes I'll do the same thing, and in 10 minutes I'll do the same thing, then you're always going to be able to at least stand by what you were.
1000%. I love, if you haven't gathered by now, our regular listeners know this, but like growing up for me, it became very evident that assimilating new information, I needed metaphors. Like I couldn't just, so I'm always reverting back to metaphors. And if we were to talk about this dynamic, that we're talking about right now, to like an organ of the body, the skin, for example, you can have a wound, right? That is, that happened however many days ago, or weeks. And it's still like your skin is still healing. The wound is still there, but it's healing and you're taking care of it. Right. So you could tell me all the things about how you took care of it and you're doing good, like making good choices. And so it's a fresh wound, but we're going in a certain direction of healing. On this other leg, you can have completely healed skin, but there's scar tissue, right? So there are two different kinds of, like, we're talking about two different kinds of like, of pain in the past. Like this one's still fresh and could quite quickly go back the other way. Skin that's healed and you've got a scar, it's a different story because you're not at risk of infection, all these other things, right?
Yeah.
But that scar's still there, and there's a story to be told, and it's still able to be used.
You are a metaphor guy. I'm such a metaphor whore.
I love it.
I also think like the idea, it's funny though, because we were just saying actually last night, we're all like sitting around, we just met last night, honestly. And like within 5 seconds, I just picked up on something like very aware that you were saying. And I was like, you in recovery? I just like had a feeling, because it's like you get a sense of when someone's like lived through some shit and then come out the other side with a lot of perspective and a lot of acceptance and gratitude. But I think the idea of like fresh wounds and healing, even when you go up to people in person and you're like, hey, how you doing? And someone says to you like, it's not a great day. Most people like have so much armor on or are so afraid of whatever that they like, you watch them like seize and they panic and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. Where it's like, oh, it's cool. Like I'm just not having a great day or a great hour. That doesn't mean my entire life is crumbling. That doesn't mean I can't handle myself. Yeah. I believe so much in like, if everyone found acceptance for where they were in their life, everyone found acceptance for who they are. And a lot of times that takes going through some shit that you would think you wouldn't want to go through, but when you're on the other side of it, you're grateful you did.
Oh, yes.
And like for me, those conversations, if everyone just found that sort of self-love and self-acceptance and was running on security and not insecurity, then you could go, my day sucks. And someone's like, I had one of those the other day, blah, blah, blah. And then you're normal. Like our preset is so like, I'm fine. Right. Fine is such a dangerous word because like fine,
absolutely.
Fine means
and
it's not bad enough that you can ask about it again.
What you're talking about, you said normal, but I want to rephrase that and to baseline. Because like what is normal? Like you said, baseline, right? Which is what we're wanting. Everybody's baseline is different, but what we're wanting to get back to, right? When we're dysregulated in some way, is what's baseline for us.
Yeah. This is true. Well, like almost survival.
Right.
Is what it is. And I think, I don't know. So when I got sober, I remember being so ashamed of the way I carried myself pre-sobriety. And I started drinking at like 12. And it was like very clear that like you took like a sweet kid that parents loved, that like did well in school, whatever. And it was just like, oh my God, the kid's a tornado. It just, the first drink, whole life fell apart. And I didn't realize that at the time.
So you were sweet and perfect until your first drink.
Oh yeah, I was a pretty damn good kid.
Really?
I was a sweetheart. Yeah, I was and like the ones that like I was friends with everyone's parents. Blah blah blah.
Me too.
It took me I'm telling you, it took me like 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, and it was like, please, he shouldn't be coming over the house, and why is all the vodka missing? And like I became a problem in school. It just. Of course, I wasn't conscious at the time because it's not like in 7th and 8th grade I was drinking every day. But the moment I took my first drink, I was like, oh, okay, I don't want to do anything else. So every single minute of my life is literally spent on like, how do I get the next one? So it was just like hunting, like a little psycho all week, like whose parents have vodka, whatever. And I would drink one of the nights. My friends were not drinking at this point. Actually, and funny enough, like these are still lifetime friends, but like they try to dump out my like vodka. It just was so sad and weird in hindsight.
Why did you take your first drink? What was the,
you know what, I think I have a nice long lineage of alcoholism, but 2,
Both sides or one side of your family?
One side, but there's a lot of addiction. There's different types of addiction on the other
Yep.
side. And I know that about myself, but I'll also my grandmom, who was like my rock on the planet, had just died. And I think if it were not for me being so ashamed of being gay and like not knowing how to move on with that, there's no way I would have driven myself by 20 into a rehab center. There's no way. I just was filled with so much insecurity and hatred, and like every word I spoke and every move I made was so calculated to go like, how are people perceiving me? Like I watched my straight friends as like a weird character study and like would adopt certain words and like, oh, they don't wear those kind of jeans, they wear those kind of jeans. And you just become like a tornado of confusion and of shame.
We learn to become superhuman chameleons.
Oh my God. And I think for me personally, I don't know about yourself, but like I gained such empathy and awareness being like even really young, because I just went, if I'm doing this, and I cannot be the only one spinning in my brain. So that means though, not everyone's gay, but that means almost everyone's going through something. I had a conversation after I came out with a friend who was biracial and was in a very white town. And he literally described, if you took biracial and gay out of the stories, identical. I mean, literally, there's just no difference. And I think we're all sort of caught up in thinking we all, it's like a weird divisive time, whatever. But like the human experience is pretty similar. Like if you're not driven by hate, like we're all kind of going through the same things. And if we would stop making up who other people are and just wait for them to tell us, or ask rather than accuse, whatever it is, I think that we could be...
I love that.
A real united species.
If we would stop buying into what did you say?
I just think
the opinion of what other people are.
We just
wait
decide
for them
who
to
someone.
tell us.
Yeah.
Or wait for them to tell us. Or what was the other thing you said?
Like I'm best on the spot. I think if we stop basically deciding who someone else is based on one sentence, based on a t-shirt they wear, based on they have an American flag, they whatever, gay flag, and just wait for them to tell us or ask them.
Yes.
That's the one thing. It's so weird. Yes. And I always, with my friends, a lot of times, I'll always say in a friendship or anything, don't wait 10 seconds to try to figure out what I've done and then and then why you should feel a certain way about it. Just fucking say it to me. What do you do? Say it immediately. And then literally, we're like, if you just do that with people, again, if you're not a hateful person, most people can literally solve the issue, boom, like that. Then there's no weird tension. Then there's no weird passive aggressiveness. But that does, and I say this as someone who came from great insecurity, like suicidal insecurity, to someone who I really love myself a lot, and I'm really confident. I know my heart. So I'll say literally everything that's on my mind, whether that's healthy or not. That's like post-sobriety. That's what I do. That faucet never stopped running, but it keeps me clean and I feel good about my heart. So I assume that what I'm saying is not harmful. And if it is incumbent upon someone else to go, hey, I just want to clarify, you just said that. I didn't love that. And again, and if everyone was comfortable to do that, you literally just squash everything in real time and then bond closer.
That's a good point.
It makes me very sad because I think we have so much in common. Like we're literally the same species. Yeah. What are we? It would be like you watch like all of the lions of the world just like fall on each other. It's the weirdest thing.
It is really weird. We're in such a weird time. It's funny because I feel like older generations than us, I know my parents and other people that are older than I am, talk about how they love to talk about how things are so very different than they've ever been before. Sure. And then in another breath or on another day, I'll also hear them say everything repeats itself. This is the same old story. And I'm like, okay, well, which is it? And I think that probably the answer might be both.
It's both and. My whole life, I don't know why, I'd always ask, well, do you think it's that or do you think it's the other one? No one has ever answered one of them. Because going back to our initial part of the conversation, nothing and no one is one thing.
Yeah.
Nothing, just like it's a combination of all things. So they are right. I think even like for millennials, for Gen Z, I'm pretty sure they feel like there's an unprecedented amount of change. Like the world is definitely turning over into something that it was not for the entire experience that like modern civilization has known.
Yeah.
Like it's going to get fucking weird
Yeah.
for sure. It's already gotten weird. It's going to get weirder. And I think though, it's like there are certain things maybe that gets tornadoed into like, what does progress mean?
Yeah.
And then there are certain things that it's just due time for them to get their progress and they have their time in the sun. And then there's certain things where all of humanity could look at and go like, no, this is really weird. We're going through this together though.
Yeah. Well, I think that, so there's something to be said for that saying of like, if you don't know what you stand for,
You'll fall for
anything. Mm-hmm. But also, you say that in one breath, in the other breath, I think it's so important to analyze the fact that we're so pressured to, especially in the South. I don't know about, because I grew up here. I didn't grow up in the more liberal areas like that you've lived in. But it still feels like we're pressured everywhere in the United States, at least, to fit into some sort of duality, no matter what you're talking about, good or bad. One versus the other, all or nothing, and there's no room for in the middle or even a third anything. And so I think that it's not only harmful to us in society, but also to us as people, because if I think I'm either good or bad,
it's crazy,
broken or perfect,
crazy,
all the then where does that you know what I mean?
I think it leaves no room for error.
Well, it leaves no room for error. It leaves no room for healing. It leaves no room for improvement.
True. Actually, it's funny, like even speaking, we're going to speak about like cultural things, whatever, and like room for improvement. I just think we need to paint with like some nuanced shades, and maybe we're starting to, but like the broad, whatever cancellation of someone, which is such a strange term, I don't think it's going to age great.
Right.
But like there are certainly people who've done egregious, horrible things that have been proven that should have consequences.
Yeah.
Like that makes just should have consequences.
Yeah.
People should not get away with treating people awfully, whatever it is. But there are also times where, and I think this is something we get caught up in social media is probably a lot of it, because you're getting like this much of a human being is, and missing the entire other, billion seconds of their life. It is bizarre to basically like take one thing that someone has said, one thing that someone has done, and then go, actually, I'm going to now, I know exactly who you are, and I know all of your life steps, and I know the people in your family, and I know the intention behind what you said. And it's like, for us not to go, that person's probably really great to the people he loves. That person may have been having the worst day of their life. That person may just like not have any ill intention, but may have just like spoken incorrectly. It's so weird that we're in this, like everyone I think is just decided who somebody else is. And I think the worst part is I actually really don't believe that humanity is this fragmented. I think if you walked across America and knocked on people's doors, there's no way the vast majority of people are just like living in hate, ready to attack people. Bullshit. There's no way. I literally think like it is that we have social media and news, whatever, that is a 24-hour cycle where like the currency is attention.
Yeah.
We need your attention. Well, it's not fun to just like get along and have nice conversation. That's not going to garner attention.
It doesn't. Yeah, it's not sensational enough.
No, and right. I think it paints a divisiveness that, if I'm being honest, I think people are pushing back on. I think we are peak insanity, or like we're post-peak insanity. And I just think that most people have an exhaustion rate where like they are noticing, if you zoomed out of like paying attention to every little thing and Twitter and the news, whatever, and just zoomed into your life, most people are pretty normal.
Yeah.
Most people are just like living their day and trying to like enjoy their friends and family and do their job. And that gives me a lot of hope. Like I love people so much. I sing and I write, and that's my passion. But I got to be honest, like second to that, if I could just walk around on earth and like get to know people and hear their stories, my cup would be nearly as full because it's just connection.
I love
it's just
it.
connection.
Have you always been that way? Even like back when?
Yeah. My mom is that way.
Oh yeah?
I'm a mama's boy for sure.
So I'm curious, when you started, okay, so let's go back. I want to go back to when you started drinking. And you know, because gosh, when you were talking about how it was overtaking your mind, and you were thinking about how am I gonna, you were, as a young teenager, you were scheduling how you were gonna
oh my God,
drink and where you were gonna get the alcohol.
Oh yeah. I was plotting and planning, again, changing like the things that and a lot of it was literally wrapped in, I'd say, my addiction and my insecurities with my sexuality really sort of tornadoed, because all of a sudden I'm changing the way my speaking voice, the words I use, the way I dress to not be the gay kid. Mm-hmm. So I'm like causing my own confusion. And then you add addiction on top of it, which is a tornado of just shit and confusion.
Yep.
And then you literally, I remember my mom saying to me, which this like broke my heart, but I knew exactly what she meant. She was like, we were so close. I don't even know you. I just don't know you. I'm not saying an insult to her. I don't even recognize you. And she was right, because I like consciously turned myself into another human being entirely. The irony is, when I got sober, the job was basically to go into rehab and go, oh, this whole acting gig that I've had to turn myself into someone who was not gay. Oh, I have to like basically one at a time peel every facade patch on me and like undo. I remember being in rehab disappointed. Like, I was like, I know I need to do this. I know I need to get sober to come out, and I know I need to come out in order to stay sober. Like, they were very hand in hand for me. Mm-hmm. But I was so bummed that I was like, oh my God, I fooled everyone. Like, I really became like the kid that got picked on to like being on like prom court, which whatever. But then I graduated, and all of a sudden the things that are like cool when you're young, which is why I feel like I get used so much, like that's not life. Like, I was just a loser. I went from literally like hurtling into being someone I wasn't to find that like the someone I wasn't immediately when high school was done was like, oh, this isn't like a cool thing in life. Mm-hmm. Nobody respects me. Nobody thinks I'm smart. Like by 19, I was just like lugging a suitcase around town and like getting kicked out of houses and like, it's weird, like basically getting drunk and passing out on the SEPTA bus. If you're from Northeast, you know what the SEPTA bus is. But it was just like, it was every night I'd literally walk around with a 2-liter of Diet Coke and vodka and water bottles. I'd have it in a plastic bag, and all I did all day was just drink. Yeah. I would just drink, and I would literally pass out like on the bus in Philly, have no idea what time it is, and have like they would be done for the night, and like the bus driver would wake me up in the back, and I'd be like, how do I get home?
Hold on.
I know we just really tunneled. I'm sorry.
You didn't. That's fine. I want to go. No,
okay.
I will rabbit trail with you all day long. So, but I want to ask you, when did this level, like what you just described, do you remember how old you were when this part started?
Yeah, probably 17.
Yeah.
Was when it was 17 was when it was every day. From 17 to 20, whatever it was, almost 21, there was.
Do you remember the turning point when it started, when it became every day? Like, what was going through your mind? Because I remember back for me.
I know what mine was.
Right. So what was it like right before and then the right after? Like, how did that change for you? Can you put that in words?
This is going to be like real niche. So I had a girlfriend who I adore. I love her. I still talk to her. She's incredible.
Did you date, or was she like your girl?
No,
like,
she was my girlfriend.
Okay.
No, she was my beard, which she knows now.
Yeah.
And it completely backfired. But basically, this is whatever. I have no filter. So as teenage couples or any couple, there's like physicality. Mm-hmm. The panic that would ensue when that would have to happen would be so great that basically I remember being in like 10th or 11th grade when it got really bad, probably going to 11th grade. And every night of the summer, 7 nights a week, because we were always together, I would have to get so drunk so fast. So I was blacked out and would have an excuse not to. So I drank myself consciously into alcoholism.
Wow.
Very consciously. I mean, there was a summer where it turned and it was like, I went from like, oh, Fridays and Saturdays, even at like 14, it was like my friends would basically be like, oh, they had to call my parents. He's passed out again. Can you come pick him up? Or my friends would carry me into my home, childhood home, whatever. But when it started like panic drinking and I had to black out to avoid like being physical with my girlfriend, essentially, it was just, I think it became my entire identity. And that's how I looked at myself. That's how everyone else looked at myself. And the most insidious part of like being caught in like insecurity about sexuality is I remember going, that's better than being gay. Better than being gay. I would I don't know why. And it's so funny because I don't come from a conservative area. My parents would not have cared. I mean, it was like, I couldn't confirm that, but I was not in a situation other than the larger cultural whatever that would have really like made it difficult.
Right.
But it felt like a character flaw. I felt like the perfect kid. And I was like, why this? Which is so crazy.
This podcast is brought to you by Promises Behavioral Health. If you or a loved one are struggling with trauma, addiction, or mental health, we are ready to answer your questions and help you take that next step. Call our admission center at 888-648-4098 or visit us online at www.promises.com. Our team is ready and waiting to answer the call for help.
What were some of the messages, if you sit here and think for a second about because if my story would be completely different if I told you the messages that gave me that that same, right? Because mine were family, church, all these things. Like my immediate environment was like, but so if you think about that, can you name or identify some of the societal influences that gave you this perception that was not okay?
I think coming from any like small town, north, south, whatever it is, there's just like one type of kid always. Like there's the boy type and then the girl type, whatever it is. And I think having even the idea of just having different tastes, having different influences, it's just this glaring reminder of like, it's just you. It's just you. You're alone here. And it was like I could be in a room 100 people and I had great friends. Like I played sport. I really like, I can't wait to give like a speech and like drag all my childhood friends going like, I dressed up as Britney Spears for crying. And you like walked around with me for Halloween as I was like trailing back in heels. I mean, you really were great friends. I didn't even get bullied by my friends. So I think it was really just like that feeling of being, I am the only one. Why is everyone else the same way? And I have to change all my natural instincts to fit that animal. I remember like, I think too, also sort of an offshoot, if I had to tell any kid who was like my younger self, like if I had to talk to my 13-year-old self, whatever, don't lose your magic. Like the fire that I put out in myself, my natural essence, is the thing that makes me like magnetic in the world and makes me interesting and different. And I put that fire out because I was so ashamed. I just would beg of any kid, like just shake them and go like, don't do that. It might suck. It might be really hard, but keep on to like your special sauce. Don't lose it. Don't lose it. And then you'll get out of the storm and you'll be so rewarded for it. And I just, it's a great lesson in hindsight because I look at it and I go, I will never suppress I'll never suppress a thought of mine. I won't suppress a quality of mine, not equality, a quality of mine, whatever. I mean, and that's probably where I was joking with like the people who work here.
I can't skip past this because it's something that we've been talking about so much. I've been doing a lot of work with GLAAD recently. We're talking so much about speaking to young people, youth. I mean, 'cause we're in a crisis of mental health, trauma, suicidality, addiction issues with LGBTQ plus youth because of bullying and not being accepted and all the things. And so speaking to young people and what you just said, I'm trying to think about, especially the 13-year-old you, like if you were to speak to that 13-year-old person or anybody else listening that age.
Sure.
The thing is, at that age, you don't know how to identify it's your special sauce. Like,
it's hard.
So how would you
And
say,
you think it's forever.
right? Like, if you were to think about those things that now are your special sauce for Cole Redding, and go back to 13 years old, how on earth would you tell that 13-year-old to identify what those are?
I wish we taught kids like to try to get in touch with who they are, which is a near impossibility. That would be a big
Right.
thing because that would solve an issue.
Sure.
But I think I would tell any kid who is like really struggling, and the things again that they hate about themselves are the things that really will benefit them in the long run. And that's so hard because you think when you're in it, you think it's forever. You think it's everything. And I get that. And that's probably why there's such crazy suicide rates and such crazy depression rates. But it would be like, look around at everyone right now who's exactly the same. I promise you, if you look at the world in general, it's not a great thing to be exactly the same.
Sure.
I promise you, it's going to be cool for like 8 years to fit in. But at some point, all of your heroes are going to be people who stand out. All of your heroes are going to have differentiating factors. Be one of them.
Yes.
And you have it in you. And it's almost impossible. This is why, though, I think representation of all different kinds is so important, though, because I think not that you can ever, it's almost like sobriety. It's like attract, don't promote, which is what they say. I think if you just go, I know you didn't know me then, but I promise you I was you. I was you. And if you would want to be, not me, but if you'd want to have this type of self-love and confidence and acceptance, I mean, here's a direct path. Like, it's a direct path.
Right.
You just have to hang on.
Well, I think to tag along, I had 2 points came to mind as you were just talking. And one, you said about like 8 years, it's only going to last about 8 years of the being perfect and what have you. I think something behind that is because, when you're trying to fit into a flow or fit into a norm or whatever, if we peel the onion back at what that is at its core, you're denying yourself your own choices, your own identity, your own secret sauce, if you will. So in order to be a fake and authentic something else, and that is only sustainable for so long before there's a breakdown, before there's whatever, right? And so somebody was asking me the other day a question about, and I can't remember because I've been answering so many questions this past week, but it was on this topic.
What's my name again?
About like, what does self-love look like, and what does like going from what you were before you got sober and now if you were to simplify it, and I think that quite simply the theme of what you're talking about right now and recovery at its core, not just laying down the substance, but like the internal issue is that we are curious. We say, I am a curious person. Like we all are, and we deny ourselves that, meaning I want to know more. I want to know more about what I like. I want to know more about you, my neighbor. I want to know why you are the way you are, why I am the way I am, the icky parts that I feel like are gross. Why do I feel like they're gross about me? If I don't keep asking myself questions about that. Also, there was like so many levels to this, which was once you got sober, what's different now versus then? And I never stopped asking questions, which was,
I literally in elementary school, I remember my mom would always tell me, like, it was always the teacher was go, he asked too many questions. And my mom would get so angry because she's like, that's my son. Great. He should.
Right.
He's curious. He wants to know things. And I think to this day, that's what makes me, it's so funny because my producer, or if I'm like working and like we're in it and I'm like very focused and hardworking, but like my one thing, everyone has their thing. They want to meditate, they want to nap. I don't need that. I need 5 minutes and 10 minutes.
You don't take naps?
At local coffee shops or 7-Eleven or Trader Joe's to talk to a stranger. I need to talk to the clerk. That's what fills my cup.
I love it.
Because I'm curious about people. And also, I genuinely just like assume everyone means well. I'm not an idiot. No one's going to walk all over me.
Right.
So you can show me who you are and I'll believe you. But for the most part, I don't assume people are out to hurt me. I don't assume people are judging me. I don't assume. I walk up to people as if I talk to everyone like they're my mother or my best friend or my protector. Everyone's just, I don't know. And that, like, I think that level of curiosity makes it so that you don't already pre-assume who someone is. That's crazy. You don't know them. Talk to them.
I will say though that that's a level of health that only comes from healing, and there's no way that is something that is a characteristic that you were actively embracing in addiction.
Hell
so
no.
I'm curious about like what led. Let's talk about let's skip back just a second.
Sure.
Because I want to go there and talk about like your healing process, which was quite dynamic. But back to that last year, or I guess last couple years, 17 plus, you're on the bus. You got your 2 liter, you've got your vodka.
Yep.
And at least you were on the damn bus, man. I was, when my last
You're gonna go
year,
car?
Oh yeah.
Oh, no. That was,
But I mean, I guess
we
we do
don't,
have bus.
no, who cares?
There's no excuse. I should not have been driving, but
there's no excuse, but that was 7 days a week.
right.
Porn.
Oh, I'm not saying, no, listen, I am not being like, oh, that's not bad. But
12 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Red lights, pouring cups. It's addiction's gross. There's no way to excuse it.
Well,
it's horrible.
It is. And I think that one thing, so let's step back for a second. And while, yes, you could apply gross to it, let's be a little kinder to our past selves that were wounded trying to cope and just self-soothe the only way we really knew how.
I would say addictions, the people who are not addicts, but addiction itself.
Right. And what it does to us.
And what it does to you.
Yes.
I don't mean any addict at the time is gross. I was just bleeding all over the place and didn't know how to bandage.
So what, like, you're on the bus doing this all day long. Do you remember, because I'm asking you these questions because this was how I was drinking. Now I was I don't know, probably about 5 years older than you when I got to this stage. But I mean, basically in the age gap in the span of time, I mean, like, it's not that far removed. And so, but what was going through your mind when you would have windows, those gaps where you were actually like trying to think about reality? Because the majority of the time, I know that you were at that stage, you're trying not to feel. You're trying to push everything off till tomorrow or deal with reality as little as possible.
I think literally I drank or smoked or took a pill for every possible minute of every single day so that I never had to entertain what was actually happening. I never had to feel it. I didn't have to deal with the repercussions. When I would be, funny enough, like I withdrew for like 2 years every day. I just thought it was anxiety because I just didn't think I was an 18-year-old withdrawing off alcohol, but shaking like a leaf all day. That panic, that's because you're back in reality and you've seen the carnage of what you've done.
Well, it's a combination when you're drinking at that point, like we were.
Sure.
It's actual, what is it called? Oh my God.
Psychosis.
DTs?
No, I'm kidding. Yeah.
Delirium
Yes,
tremens.
It's exactly right.
It's a medical condition. Like your organs and your nervous system are actually like going through. So it's a combination of reality hitting and all of a sudden you're having to see and feel like all the things you're trying to avoid. But also your nervous system and organs are like flipping the hell out because they've learned to survive with poison and now they don't have it. And they're like, we're going to die.
Yeah.
But I know that you had those moments of like, not necessarily, because you have the moments of panic And somewhere in between the moments of panic and the moments of where you're numbed out, there are these windows of clarity where you take like these little bits of whatever level of adjacent reality snapshots that you can. Mm-hmm. Do you remember anything during that time where you were like approximately calculating what was going on, why you were doing it, and how you might change it tomorrow if you could?
I feel like I have a very unconventional, like getting sober. Basically, all my friends had gone to college, lifetime friends stopped answering my texts because all of them said, we're not going to watch you kill yourself anymore. Really good friends. Mm-hmm. But all of the rugs were getting ripped out from underneath me. I remember being June and I was sober one day, couldn't find alcohol till like 2 p.m. Basically said to my mom, I need you to put me somewhere. I need you to physically take me somewhere because I'm going to trick you and I'm going to get alcohol again. So cut to an hour later, I finally found alcohol. I go, what the hell have I done? Terrible idea. And basically end up manipulating my mom, drink for 6 more months. Get to a point, I'm at the beginning of December and I do the exact same thing because I remember looking out the window. It was raining. It was basically like the Breakaway video by Kelly Clarkson. It was ridiculous. But I'm looking out the window. It's like, it's raining. And I literally remember thinking like, I'm going to get sober or I'm going to kill myself. What the hell option do I? And that was it. And I just remember I broke down to my mom, told her the extent of the drinking. And I will say, I basically like made a public service announcement to everyone in my life that in a month I'd be going into rehab. And I have carried this with me.
You knew,
a lot of times. Oh, I knew. So
you knew that by getting honest about
that's what it was with everyone fast. And I do this a lot of times now. If I know when I moved to LA, whatever, I tell everyone I know, you box yourself into the corner that you know you need to be in. And I think that was to me, that's what it was. So I spent 1 month, I went to an outpatient. The guy was like, you drink like a handle a day. You can't stop drinking. So go in today. I was like a little psycho. And I remember I'm like 20. And I remember saying to him, New Year's Eve is my favorite. So I'm not going to be going before New Year's Eve for sure. I went home, told my mom, I'm going to drink in the basement like I've been doing, unbeknownst to you at the rate I've been doing, whatever. I'm going to drink for the next 30 days. Leave me the hell alone. If I don't die, that literally was how I kind of regulated it. If I can make it through this next month, I will go into rehab and I'll figure out how it's just done. I'll figure out how it's done. If a young recovering person or like someone who's not recovering yet told me this, I'd be like, you're not going to do that. Right. But I knew I was going to do it. And I remember drinking for a month. All of my friends knew. I was at a New Year's Eve party, basically doing shots and like cheersing with a bunch of strangers and my friends were like, he's going into rehab tomorrow. Take your last shot with him. It was like a line. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But I made it through the month. Next morning, my little sister is just really psychotic and really sick, but she was basically like, all my friends had left me. So my sister, who was 4 years younger than me, had to get brought along in the passenger seat, metaphorically, and also literally, which was terrible. And she got me a bunch of weed in the morning, and we had some vodka that morning, and we smoked our last couple bowls on the back porch. I was good and drunk. 12 in the afternoon, mom drove into rehab, cried a lot, drunk in the seat with her in the car outside, went in. And I remember just like, you have that moment where you're like, this is my life. This is what I've done. I'm 20 years old and all of my friends are out. I'm actually kind of emotional. All of my friends are out like living their life and experiencing new things. And I've literally gotten myself to a point where like, I'm going to kill myself. And I've drank myself into a rehab facility. And I remember like sitting there thinking, if I do 24 hours, if I just get one day where I get sober, I stay sober all day, and I wake up the next day, I'll never have an excuse the rest of my life. The ball will be in my court. At this point, I started drinking at 12. It was like the devil grabbed me by the thing on my shirt, and I never got control back. Ever. it's hard. You have to take responsibility for what you did, but it's like you're just being dragged through the mud. You're almost so removed. You're like bird's eye view of your own life. And I remember just thinking one day and I'll do it the rest of my life, which is naive. But that was a core thing. I just remember going,
it's a tenet
it'll be done.
It's a tenet though of one of, I mean, like of recovery, talking about, you know, one day at a time. I mean, doesn't technically say one day at a time, and then you're good for the rest of your life. But but I understand the mentality of what you're saying is that like, if I can do it one day at a time,
then
I'll
I
just
can do it tomorrow.
Right.
Then I do it tomorrow.
Exactly.
And I use that with all things in my life.
There's a lot of emotion that just came in your eyes.
There
when you
does.
said that, and I haven't
talked about it in a while.
I want to ask you about the shame because what that was you were speaking to this just mountain of shame that smacked you in the face when you got there. I mean, I totally get guilt and shame, right? I mean, we talk about it all the time, and God knows I face my own, but your personal experience and your story, as you teared up when you said that, you know, all your friends had either come out or done what they needed to do. Mm-hmm. You were 20 years old and in rehab, and you felt like rehab was the bad thing. Like you were there. It's
kind of sick, but yeah.
Yeah. So what can you kind of dive into emotionally? Like what was the message that you were processing at that point?
I really think, and I think this is probably like, still, trigger's not the word for it, but this is still like the thing that makes me most passionate or most anxious is I just believe everyone has a very specific skill set that they're supposed to bring to the world. Mm-hmm. Something that if they really get in touch with who they are, they've got something magic, that whether that's to just as a mother, whether that's a police officer, whatever. I make art, and I think it's really good, and I think I'm a really good communicator for it. I just know what I'm doing here on earth, and that's not to minimize the humanity of addiction, that's not to whatever, but potential is a tough word for me. Potential's where you can get me to like teeter on going like getting really emotional, because I know what I'm here for in this skin. If we have a next lifetime, I don't know it then, but I know what I'm here for now. Mm. And I looked at addiction as there were a lot of people who believed in me, even prior to addiction, that I was just a disappointment. Mm-hmm. And that's what it was. And I don't think until maybe a year ago to 2 years ago, I really humanized myself. Anything I did was because it was for the art. Even if no one ever heard it, no one saw it, it's for the art. And I was like a bad 90s manager to myself. It was like, just keep it together, write the song, it's for the bit, whatever it is. Yeah. And I think that's where the shame came from, was I looked at it as I'm not just robbing myself of this, I'm robbing the people who I am supposed to touch and connect with on the planet of me being my best healed self, of me being able to share what it is that I've gone through with them, through music, through other platforms like this, whatever it is. That is what sat on me. And to put that on your shoulders is crazy, kind of heavy, but I will say it took me to last year where I can't be an artist. I can't be an artist without being a human first.
Right.
That's so, my humanity is above all. But now I look at it and I go, well, I have been through a lot of, like, so many things we didn't even go through, but like I've been through a lot of shit in my life, and I think I've come out the other side being more grateful and more wise and smarter and more compassionate. And I want to be able to like spread that as far and wide and as potent as I possibly can and connect with as many people as possible. Yeah.
I love that. And I want to talk about your art in just a second, but I can't skip over, and we're running close on time, but I want to speak a little bit to your healing process. So if you were to, give a, and I hate to say brief, but just, a concise, outline of what healing looked like for you from entering treatment, what you chose to do, what you chose to say yes to that changed you for the better, and brought you here today.
Yeah.
This version
How tight
of you.
into like treatment and post sobriety, or like, can I zoom out to go like what I think healing looks like?
However you would describe
Yeah.
what I just asked. Yeah.
I think that healing never ends. I think it is an ongoing process that every time you think if you're really growing and you're really soaking in life and you really want to be the best version of yourself and the best version of yourself for other people in the world, you always think you hit the bottom latch and you go, I've done it. I've healed. Until a year later, when you have new experiences, when you felt new things, thought of new things, and you'll have to do it again. And you'll have to do it again. And I always looked at it as almost a loss. I'm here again. Like whether it was sobriety, whether it was I got diagnosed with like type 1 diabetes and almost died, whether there's like 3 major like resets where all the wheels came off the bus. And I just remember thinking, how many times do I have to do this? How beautiful is it that I've been adaptable and curious about life enough that I've had to keep hitting that same point where I go, you know what? Actually, that work isn't invalidated by doing this work. I literally just keep finding trap doors. And that's great because every trap door, I find I have so much peace and acceptance and love for everything that happened in this moment backwards in my life. There's nothing that I need to relitigate. There's nothing that brings me pain. I can't account for 10 minutes from now. I don't know.
Right.
But I know that because of that, I am who I am and I'm equipped to handle whatever it is that comes in 10 minutes of my life.
Most definitely.
And I think I just wish everyone on the planet to like focus on themselves. Focus on themselves, because if you get to a point where all you have is love and acceptance.
I love that you said that. So
for other
we met
people,
yesterday
it's
at the concert for Love.
Oh my
and
God, it was called
Acceptance.
Love and Acceptance.
Yes. And
That's
so
right.
we can't let it go without
No, you're right.
giving
You're right.
a shout out and a nudge to both. Okay, so it's put on by Ty Herndon's Foundation for Love and Acceptance, which supports mental health and addiction services for people under the LGBTQ plus umbrella, and also GLAAD, which is our nation's oldest and largest LGBTQ plus advocacy organization, helping to tell stories about queer people and the issues that affect our lives. So raising money for both of those things. So obviously transforming the money is going to absolutely transform our world.
Yeah.
I can't speak highly enough of it, but we talked so much about what does love and acceptance mean? How does it start? All the things. And really so much of the message that we were talking about is like, we can't talk about love and acceptance in the community if we're not talking about where it starts within our own skin. What are you doing? Do you have that within yourself? And if you don't, how do we give you the tools to get there? And
I think that's like the most important thing is like we've been taught in this world to like focus on other people, take care, whatever it is. It is not a selfish thing to go, okay, it's actually really logical. I am the source of like everything else that happens in my life.
Yes.
Everything is a reflection of what I'm putting down in terms of my energy, of how I'm treating other people. If you are filled with like a great level of radical acceptance and self-love and confidence and security, then you move with all of those things and you ricochet. It's like a trickle effect. All of a sudden, if you are happier, you're better to other people. Yeah. If you are more secure, you're not looking to be offended by other people. You take things more rationally. If you are filled with love, you're not looking at other things as being hateful because you're like, oh, okay, hold on, let me check my ego at the door. Just something someone said. And again, going back to like being fully healed, you have an opportunity. It's so beautiful when people are face to face to just address it then.
Most definitely.
Not everything has to be a fight. And I think if there's anything that like and my mom, I'll give my mom a lot of credit. I mean, I've been through a lot of shit, but aside from that, she has been like so the good angel on my shoulder and continues to be like throughout my life. Anytime I am choosing what someone else, like choosing for someone else, my mom's like, you just don't know. You just don't know, and most people don't want to upset you. You just don't know, and most people don't realize what they said means XYZ. And I think if
that's a good nugget right there.
Yeah, if everyone had for all of the funny, like there's so many things I did not get from my mom because she did not get from her parents. But if everyone had my mom to just follow them around and just guide them in a kind, loving, sensible direction, I was so lucky. I'm so lucky. And I just want to do that. I don't want kids, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I really, really more than anything want to get to travel the world, share my art, but more than that, like sit and connect with people and like make use of like some of the mud that I was
you
drugged
most
through.
Definitely.
Like, I can't wait.
I have
That's
no
so-
doubt that you're doing it on
Thanks.
this platform. You're doing it on the
Thanks.
stage. You're going to be doing it on even bigger stages. You're doing it at the 7-Eleven. You're doing it at the coffee shop. And I absolutely love it. I love
Thanks.
that we came into each other's lives, that you are now permanently installed in our show. This is huge. You carry an orbit of energy that is just so good and so positive. And
Thanks.
so like it's very
really
contagious.
nice.
So
Thank you.
I have 2 questions left
Hit
for
me.
you. The second one's a surprise. The first one is for anybody that's watching or listening, tuning in today that has really connected with your story. What would you like to leave with them as your final word of encouragement?
Whoever you are, wherever you are, if you just do what you think is right in your own bones, minute by minute, then you are doing what you're supposed to be doing on the planet. Don't suppress. Don't change anything. Don't worry about what other people are doing. You are you. So just tap into that. Be as authentic as you possibly can, and it's a snowball effect. Then all of a sudden, your one authentic step turns into your natural state of being is of authenticity. And you will not only be better to yourself because of that, but you'll be better to the rest of the world because of that.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Okay, my second question,
Yeah.
my final question is a callback to the beginning of our show.
Yeah.
I want to ask you if you're willing to sing for us that bridge that your
hell yeah, sing that
show-stopping bridge. that
Okay,
we-
so you know what's so funny too before we end, because I normally everything's like funny to me, like humor, so I get in serious conversations, but they're like broken up by like me just saying some raucous shit. So this has been really nice. You've like kept me in a space of like no protective layer of humor. So thank you.
Authenticity.
This didn't
that's
even
what
become normal. It's just I'm like walking around just doing a stand-up. Like even on stage, there's like a stand-up skit and there's like songs in between. And
Right.
This bridge is from a song called "The Dance." That is probably my favorite song I've ever written. I don't know when it's going to come out, but it'll come out. And it's about basically wanting to give someone something that I wasn't able, which was love, which was whatever it was. It was 2 years ago. I didn't have romantic love within me. I liked them, and I wrote a song about them perceiving me as not being able to fulfill what they wanted and going, why would you lead me on? Why would you whatever? And the bridge is like, why would you ask me to finally sleep over? Plan me a birthday party in October. Put me on speaker to speak to your mother. Why would you tell me you think that you love me, of course, knowing that I never said that before? And God, I hate dancing, but I sucked it up to be yours. Don't ever ask me to dance, 'cause the next time I swear I won't go. Well, I thought that I had a chance, but now I'm here standing alone. and I had the perfect night planned. The worst part is you'll never know. Waited as long as I can, but everyone else has gone home. Why would you ask me to dance? Sorry, there. I should have warmed up. I've got caffeine in my throat.
Are you kidding me?
Thanks. No, thanks. No, I love that song.
Chills.
Thanks.
Your pitch is a gift from.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Tell my producer. Steven,
your producer
listening?
better watch this.
I know.
Okay, thank you so much. This has been. I feel like we might have a part 2 at some point when you come back.
This is
I also feel like you just don't know you're moving to Nashville probably within the next
It's
year.
funny. My manager this morning was like, "So you like Nashville?" He's like, the music's very country friendly, and I was like, Brent, to one step at a time here, Brent.
Yeah, we'll see. So
Yeah, this was an absolute pleasure.
Already.
My cup runneth over.
Yes, good. Mine does too. Thank you so much. This has been so great, friend. Absolutely. And to all of you tuning in, listening, we're so glad that you're here. I will close out by reminding you, each and every one of you, that it's never too late to start loving yourself, and you're always only one decision away from a completely different life.
This podcast is brought to you by Promises Behavioral Health. If you or a loved one are struggling with trauma, addiction, or mental health, we are ready to answer your questions and help you take that next step. Call our admission center at 888-648-4098 or visit us online at www.promises.com. Our team is ready and waiting to answer the call for help.